B.J. Whittaker once lied about her own father's death to raise money. In 2024, she told people Larry had died of a heart attack, accepted funeral donations, including $1,000 from filmmaker Mark Laita. When Laita later filmed Larry alive and unaware that his death had been used as a fundraiser, B.J. admitted the lie and apologized for orchestrating the hoax. Now that same daughter is speaking out again, this time against two men. The West Virginia State Police have officially named as suspects in a fraudulent donation scheme tied to the Whittaker family, Lawrence Eric Carroll of Georgia and John Patrick Roark of Odd, West Virginia. B.J. says they're not telling the truth. Larry says Eric got it and claims Patrick got some of our money. Patrick says he never mishandled funds and points to Eric, while Eric insists he's innocent. Their stories don't match, but the fallout lands on the same vulnerable relatives in Odd. Before we go further, a warning. This case involves addiction, alleged assaults inside the family home, the forced removal of disabled and elderly family members by Adult Protective Services, and an active criminal investigation into missing donations. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. In this video, we're not here to guess or pick a side. We're following the documented record, police bulletins, court records, and on-the-record interviews to show what B.J. has done, what she says Eric and Patrick did, and why investigators are trying to untangle who is lying to whom. If you care where your clicks and donations actually go, stay with this until the end. Chapter 1. Viral Fame. Fragile Lives. The Whittaker family never expected the world to know their names. Their lives changed in 2020 when filmmaker Mark Laita began filming them in Odd, West Virginia for his YouTube series Soft White Underbelly. Viewers saw a tightly bound family living in extreme poverty, elderly siblings like Betty, Lorene, Ray, and Larry, and younger relatives like Timmy, many of them with severe intellectual, speech, and health problems linked by doctors to generations of close intermarriage. Those videos triggered a wave of attention and sympathy. Donations of cash, food, clothing, and building materials poured in from around the world, aimed at fixing leaking roofs, buying medicine, and giving the Whittakers some comfort and dignity after decades of neglect. Overnight, a forgotten hollow in West Virginia became a global charity project. But the same qualities that drew compassion also made the family easy to exploit. Most of the Whittakers cannot manage complex paperwork, banking, or online accounts. They relied on others to control access to their money, their story, and even their front door. Into that space stepped Betty Jo B.J. Whittaker Rocha, Larry's daughter. She appeared in some interviews, tried to handle certain family matters, and slowly became a gatekeeper between the Whittakers and the outside world. Chapter 2. B.J.'s Death Hoax. The first confirmed fraud tied directly to the Whittaker name did not come from strangers online. It came from inside the family. In 2024, Larry's daughter, Betty Jo B.J. Whittaker Rocha, told people her father had died of a heart attack. The claim was framed as tragedy, and it came with an immediate purpose: raising funeral money from the same audience that had fallen in love with the Whittakers through Soft White Underbelly. Donors responded quickly. Among them was filmmaker Mark Laita, who sent $1,000 toward Larry's supposed funeral expenses. Only later did he discover that Larry was still alive. In a video titled "The Death of Larry Whittaker," Laita sits down with Larry, who appears unaware that his death has been announced to the world or that people have paid for a funeral that never existed. When the hoax is exposed, B.J. admits what she did and apologizes for lying. Public records and later reporting describe this as more than a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate falsehood used to obtain money. The record does not clearly show whether any of those donations were repaid, but the apology alone confirms the essential facts. Larry was alive, donors were told he was dead, and B.J. was the one who spread and profited from that lie. Investigators and journalists later note that the death hoax was not BJ's only misuse of money. Funds raised specifically to help her relocate were also reported as mishandled, with donors believing they were supporting a fresh start that never truly happened. In the same period, Larry's only documented legal trouble was a minor incident, taking petrol after his car ran out of gas, spending a few hours in jail before relatives secured his release. Chapter 3. Eric and Patrick take over. By mid-2025, two outsiders stepped into the Whittaker story and presented themselves as the answer to the growing chaos. Lawrence Eric Carroll, a 41-year-old from Georgia, and John Patrick Roark, a 46-year-old local from Odd, West Virginia, emerged as self-appointed caretakers and advocates. They launched official Whittaker social media pages, a YouTube channel, and a website, telling followers that donations would now move through them in a more transparent, organized way. Video updates showed them delivering food, supplies, and building materials, talking about repairs and a better home for the family. Fundraisers they ran were reported to bring in significant sums, with tens of thousands of dollars a month mentioned in some coverage, almost all controlled by Eric and Patrick. To donors, they looked like responsible middlemen between a vulnerable family and the wider world. Inside the hollow, the picture was darker. BJ was still living on the property in 2025, but according to her elderly relative, she had become unstable and violent. Betty said BJ was always being on drugs and alleged that BJ had attacked her, Larry, and Timmy. With Eric and Patrick's help, Betty obtained a protective order and BJ was served with an eviction notice in late August 2025. A judge later dismissed the order, but the damage to those relationships was done. Chapter 4. We never stole a dime versus Eric got the money. As donations piled up, the numbers and the reality on the ground stopped lining up. Relatives and reporters described fundraisers tied to Eric and Patrick bringing in large sums. Yet the Whittakers' living conditions remained poor. The same cramped house, the same clutter and decay, only limited visible improvements. People who had sent money or goods began asking a simple question: if all this help is real, why does so little seem to change? Larry Whittaker turned those doubts into a direct accusation. In interviews, he said promised money never reached the family as it should have. When asked where it went, he answered bluntly, "Eric got it." He also claimed that Patrick got some of our money, I don't know how much, suggesting both men skimmed from the donations moving through their hands. On September 15, 2025, the West Virginia State Police Beckley Detachment publicly confirmed they were investigating a fraudulent scheme involving money and merchandise meant for the Whittakers. In an official bulletin, they named two suspects: 41-year-old Lawrence Eric Carroll of Georgia and 46-year-old John Patrick Roark of Odd, West Virginia, accused of accepting donations on behalf of the family. Troopers asked anyone who had sent the men money, gift cards, or goods to come forward, signaling that this was no longer just internet drama, but an active fraud case. Eric and Patrick have denied stealing from the family. They say every donation went to help the Whittakers and insist, "We never stole a dime." Patrick has suggested that the only questionable funds ran through Eric's YouTube account, subtly shifting blame away from himself, while Eric, under growing scrutiny, largely withdrew from public view while maintaining his innocence. From the sidelines, BJ began speaking out about them. She accused Eric and Patrick of lying and implied that each man was hiding his own misconduct while pointing the finger at someone else. She is both a potential insider witness and a proven liar. The same woman who faked Larry's death and now faces a felony charge is calling other people thieves. Her statements may still help investigators, but they will have to be tested against records and testimony before they can be treated as fact. Chapter 5. A PS Silence and What We Actually Know. By mid-September 2025, the situation around the Whittakers was no longer just an online scandal. Adult Protective Services arrived without warning and removed 3 of the most vulnerable relatives from the home: Ray in his 70s, his sister Lorene, and Lorene's son Timmy. All 3 lived with serious disabilities and had been part of the videos that made the family known. Reports described the house they left as filthy and unsafe, with squalid conditions that no longer met even a basic standard of care. Betty said she missed the 3 desperately and had raised them like her own children. Larry said officials would not tell him where they were taken, citing confidentiality, and he recalls being warned not to talk to outsiders because people were making money off the videos and authorities did not like it. After that visit, the public story went quiet. The official social media pages tied to Eric and Patrick stopped posting, and the donation website came down. On the record, what remained were a few videos, a state police bulletin naming Eric Carroll and Patrick Roark as fraud suspects, BJ's criminal record, and a family that no longer controlled its own narrative. What we can say for certain is narrow but serious. BJ has a documented record of deceiving donors and has been charged in a separate felony scheme. Eric and Patrick are under an active state investigation over donations raised in the Whittakers' name. The elderly and disabled family members have been removed or silenced for their own protection, and donors are left guessing who, if anyone, can be trusted with the story of this family and the money meant to help them.